Good morning. Today is Wednesday. Sorry, it's Wednesday. It is a little hard to keep track of days. I just know Sunday. Sunday is coming. Got to be ready for Sunday. I should actually be ready for youth group and everything like that, which is later today, and small group tonight. But anyhow, it is Wednesday, April 15th. Normally we would be doing our taxes or have hopefully already had our taxes done, but there's an extension. So all of you that maybe are looking at a calendar that has April 15th tax day and you're a little worried, you're a little concerned, I have good news for you. Your taxes aren't due until summertime. So I believe it's July 15th is when they're actually due now. So a little bit of good news in there. But I do want to encourage you with something that I woke up this morning and God just really just had this for me. And I woke up just immediately thinking about a concept that I think we all need to grab a hold of during those times of doubt, those times of frustration. Maybe you are in a place of just you're not feeling well. Maybe it's emotionally, maybe it's maybe even a mental space where you're mentally exhausted. Maybe it's a spiritual exhaustion. Maybe it's a physical exhaustion. Well, this is what the Lord just really had for me this morning when I woke up. When the desire for healing and blessing is greater than the sickness, you will pursue the one who blesses and heals. Think of Jacob. He fought for his blessing, even though it cost him something. And are you ready to pursue God in this way? And you can find the story of Jacob wrestling for his blessing in Genesis chapter 32, verses 22 through basically 32. And it just simply, it says this: the same night he arose and took his 2 wives, his 2 female servants, and his 11 children, and crossed the ford of Jabbokah. He took them and sent them across the stream and everything else he had. And Jacob was left alone. And a man wrestled with him until the breaking of the day. When the man saw that he did not prevail against Jacob, he touched his hip socket. And Jacob's hip was put out of joint as he wrestled with him. Then he said, "Let me go, for the day has broken." But Jacob said, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." And he said to him, "What is your name?" And he said, "Jacob." And remember, Jacob was the name he was given at birth, and it meant to deceive. It meant to grab the heel of his brother. It was to almost be a remark that would be something that would deem him as a person who would not necessarily be trustworthy. So it goes on to say, then he said, "Your name shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel, for you have strived with God and with men and have prevailed." Then Jacob asked him, "Please tell me your name." But he said, "Why is it that you ask my name?" And there he blessed him. So Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, saying, "For I have seen God face to face, and yet my life has been delivered." The sun rose upon him as it passed, and he continued to limp because of his hip. And this is actually a infirmity that Jacob, or Israel now, would have the rest of his life. Therefore, to this day, the people of Israel do not eat the sinew of the thigh that is on the hip socket, because he touched the socket of Jacob's hip in that place. And so for you, I want you to grab a hold of this understanding that sometimes during doubt, sometimes during difficult times, you will have to wrestle for your blessing. You will have to strive for that healing. I spoke in prayer about the woman who crawled on her belly through a great crowd just to reach out and touch the hem of Jesus's garment. She worked for her blessing. She strived for it. She wanted to do anything she could to reach out and touch Jesus. And many of us may take this very passive role. And in fact, what we see many times over in God's word, there is a pursuit of Jesus. There is a desire that moves us past whatever our ailments are. It moves us past even what the cost might be. And it takes us to this place where we say, I want God. I want God if I have to give up something. I want God if it's going to cost me something. I want God if it's going to be hard. If it's going to make me work, I still want God. And so I really want you to grab a hold of that during those times of doubt, those times of worry, those times where it is hard. Be willing to wrestle with God. Be willing to pursue God. Be willing to fight for that healing and that blessing. And I promise you that it is going to be something in the long run that is going to be worth it. Instead of just kind of giving up and saying, it just looks like it's going to be too hard. It looks like it's going to be difficult. Instead, pursue God. Pursue God today. Be in His Word. Spend some time in worship. Seek after Him. Chase after Him. You will get a hold of Him. If you draw near to God, He will draw near to you. That is in the book of James. God will not contradict His Word. So I really encourage you, even if it's hard, even if it's difficult, even if there's opposition, fight for your blessing. Fight for your healing. I know for a fact that in my life, during those difficult times, during the heartaches and the failures of my life, I have fought to pursue God, and I've been majorly blessed because of it. So I encourage you to do the same, and it may take a while. You may wrestle all night. You may wrestle for years and years. There's another story now that, kind of just thinking about that idea of waiting on your blessing. Keep in mind, Caleb and Joshua were two men that entered into the promised land before it was the nation of Israel's. And they were two spies out of this big group of manly men that they came back and they said, we can do it. The Lord has set this place before us to take. The other men just decided, no, there's no way. They're giants in the land. There's no way we could do it. Now Caleb, after they pursued and they took on what God had set forth as a blessing for them, it was 40 years after that Caleb still didn't have his blessing. But Caleb, at the age of 80, still waited upon the Lord, still called upon the Lord, still decided to fight for his blessing, and he received it, even 40 years later. So I want to encourage you. I want you to know it is going to be worth it. It is going to take a little bit of work. It's not always going to be easy. It's not always going to be just something that just falls into your lap. But it will be something that will be worth it, always. So be encouraged, fight, pursue God, and you will be blessed. All right, have an awesome day, and we'll see you tomorrow.